Okay, great. Good evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope everybody had an incredible Purim. And it's a privilege, b'chazeh Hashem, in the next few weeks that we have before Pesach, and I'll be away in the States for quite a while, and so our shiur will be on break. But for the interim weeks that we have now, the next few weeks, to try and make as much progress as we can as we continue through the Sefer. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, just see where we're holding. I think we're on page Nun, if you have the booklet. So it's basically the last turn of the page before the final page, and I think we're up to Ois Vav. Yeah, is that right? Okay, amazing. Okay, great. Thank you so much, everybody, also for being here and for joining us and learning with us. So let's jump back in. We were learning, if I'm not mistaken, about the concept of how Kinas Sofrim fits in, right? To this whole thing that we've been learning about, to really feel okay, with who we are in the Hisbodedus space, and to enter in with a sense of okayness, with a sense of self-acceptance, with a fundamental self-worth, and to recognize and to sort of reflect in an imaginative sense, because it's not, we don't hear it or see it or feel it, but to imagine, but in a holy way, in a real way, to use our capacity for imagination, it's called the koach hadimyon, to envision Hashem sending us good energy, good messages, right? Feeling good and feeling okay as we are with who we are, and that's something that's very important, and that's really what Hisbodedus, what this special time of personal prayer is really all about, right? That's what we learned. And we were asking, how does that fit in with what Chazal tell us, kinas sofrim tarba chachma? That the more that a person is jealous, right, of the scholarship of somebody else, but we're using scholarship just as an example, it could be any accomplishment, spiritually speaking, that a person accomplishes, whether it's in davening, whether it's in learning, whether it's in midos tovos, whether it's in whatever area a person wants to think about working on, and there are many, many, many myriad levels. Serving God is a huge, there's so many different madrigas, and even within every particular topic, it breaks down into so many different subcategories. Unbelievable. And so you might see that a certain person is proficient in a certain area. That's a good thing, right? Kinas sofrim, tar b'chachma. That's supposed to increase our willingness to try to connect to Hashem in that way, right? How does that fit in with just accepting who we are and not trying to be anybody that we're not? How does that fit? So we were learning, and this was like quite a radical thing, and I've shared this pretty widely since, that Rav Kluger says that Mishnah that says this thing, that kinas sofrim tar b'chachma, that in some way it's a positive thing to be jealous, right, and to look at other people, is only relevant for an emotionally secure person. To a person who's fundamentally rooted in a place of self-worth and a place of ahava, like we learned, that even though yira comes first, but that's like assuming that we have that natural sense of love, the natural sense of self-care and self-worth and self-confidence. Then yira, for sure, yira shamayim. But it begins with, I don't know what's going on up there, but it begins with a natural sense of being okay. If a person doesn't have that, then this chazal of kinas sofrim is not relevant. And we learned, I think we said from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, right? Harba asik Rabbi Shimon v'lei also biyadam, right? Many people tried to do what Rabbi Shimon did, and it didn't work out for them. And the Baal Shem Tov said, not because what they tried to do wasn't possible. You see that there were people who it did work out for. Why didn't it work out for these particular people? Because they tried to do it only because Rabbi Shimon did it. Meaning they tried to be like someone else, right? And if a person's trying to do that, so don't do it. You have to be yourself, to find your own way, to find your own voice and your own thing. When a person has that, so then of course you can look to see a certain mila that someone has that you want to onboard. That doesn't mean that you have to put yourself aside. You are who you are with all of your qualities and all of your unique abilities, and you want to add on something, that you see. That's okay. Okay, and that's what we were learning about. So let's jump back in here. We look at Ois Vav, the sixth small heading in this chapter. And Rav Kluger continues, and he says like this: Me'avanas haniskar le'el, Understanding what we've been learning until this point, Yuvan, a person should understand, there are certain people who have very wonderful capacities to do simple things. Simple. But it's possible that they also have very tremendous qualities that they're really supposed to bring out in this world. Every person is here to accomplish something. They're supposed to accomplish something. But it's hidden. And they themselves are not able to bring it out. They need help from other people. They can't do it alone. However, it is upon them, turn over the page, Leida, to know they have to understand that it's true that all of us need each other and that every person needs something collaboratively to be able to benefit from someone else's point, and that everybody should be mekabel and dain medain, like the angels are accepting one from the other. That's true. But every person also has that part of them that's self-sufficient. That part that they already are without someone else, just as they are. And Rav Kluger says a person's primary sense of worth comes from that point, not from the point that's able to be developed with the help of someone else, even though that's good and that could help unearth brand new abilities and capacities, but the person's own chelek. Ki zeh chelkam, somebody does mind getting the door. Ki zeh chelkam deinam lekonam. This is their unique point between them and Hashem. This is the unique thing. What they have, essentially just who they are, and that's the point that they're bringing into the space of personal prayer and these moments with Hashem. That a person shares just them, but really them, what they are alone. And this is, he says, V'kol bazeh, or b'masha amar chazal, this is what our sages teach, a very important teaching from our sages. Ein adam loimein Torah, ella mimakim shali boi chafet. He says a person, this is reminding me, I don't know what's going on, honestly, but it's reminding me of a Shemi Shmuel. Shemi Shmuel, there's a Gemara that says that there were two Tanaim who were learning, and the birds that were flying over them, nisraf, they were burned because of the Torah that was so. So Shemi Shmuel says the word nisraf could mean burnt, but he says the lashon of the Gemara is the ofim, the birds, right? It was like an oaf is a bird, like a nisraf was burned. But he says we know that there are different levels of angels. And one of the levels is called Ofanim, and the level above is called Srafim. So he says the angels above that were Ofanim, Nisraf, they became Srafim. Not that the birds burnt. The Ofanim, Nisraf, they turned into Srafim. So I don't know what we're causing, what kind of angels are running around up there, but this is Nisraf. Okay, anyway. Let's try not to get too distracted. But Chazal tell us, the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah Daf Yotes, Ein Adam loimed Torah ella mimakum shali boi chafetz, that a person can only learn Torah from the place where libo chafetz, where their heart is in that place. Shali boi chafetz. Shenemar ki b'seiras Hashem cheptzo. That's your connection. And that doesn't mean that a person can't be connected to many areas of Torah. That's good. But what's your shorish neshama? What are you connected to? What's your inyan? That's the point that you're bringing into a relationship with Hashem. Your own chelek. And every person has to know, they come out into this world, you have to know that you have a chelek. Every person, the Gemara says in Brachas, our faces are different, our dispositions are different, just like their faces are unique. They're deos, we're all unique. Now we're all one, but we're all unique, fragmented sparks of divinity that come down into this world to reveal a light that no soul from the beginning of time until now revealed, and no soul from now until the end of time will ever reveal. And that's true for every single Jew, and beyond that, every single human. But now let's talk about Jews. Every single Jew is revealing a spark of the Shekhinah. That's absolutely unique. And so if the only purpose of us coming down into this world is that every person should collaboratively team up with everybody else so that pretty much everybody's producing the same thing in collaboration with everyone else, which is nice, but that's not mamish the point. Because then I miss something precious, which is I miss what was unique about me and what was unique about each of us. But when a person invests and has enough built-in confidence to be able to give themselves the permission to find their own connection, whatever that is, the way that they connect there. So then when we're talking about hisbodedus, we're talking about personal prayer or personal relationship, that's the point that you're bringing into that context. The part of you that is fundamentally you. Because in hisbodedus, again, tefillah b'tzibur, you're standing in a congregation, God sees the collectivity. Al kol be'asara, every time 10 Jews get together, shchinta sharia. You know, the shechina collectively is revealing itself in that place. But in hisbodedus, you're showing up as an individual. And that's a great light that sometimes gets lost in the communal nature of Judaism today, is that we're all so much about the community that we forget about the individual. And it's almost as if, to the degree that we overlook the individual strength, so then the collective is going to be weaker. Because if you have strong individuals who then can, bring their unique light in collaboration, then the whole magnified light gets stronger. But if in the name, somebody should probably check what's going on. And I don't know if everyone's okay. So, can they not find the stairs or something? I don't know what's going on. Mario is trying to get to the next level. Huh? Baby, just, I don't know. It's getting me a bit nervous. You won't miss much. Thank you. So just to make sure everyone's okay. So this is this is the point of hisbodedus. Showing up as an individual and finding our individual light. Let's try not to get distracted, shiur. Right? To try to really find our individual light and to believe in it and to believe that Hashem believes in it. And not to give up on that, not to be mevater. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we don't value the collective. What I'm saying is a radical thing. I'm saying, adarabba. Yeah? Everyone's safe? You showed them the stairs?
Yeah.
Good? Oh, they're doing something? Okay. To the degree that each individual is embracing their own individuality and then showing up in the collective is stronger. Unity is not to be confused with uniformity. There's a huge difference between unity and uniformity. Uniformity means that everyone's the same. Unity, on the contrary, you cannot have unity without distinction. Unity means if every part of this collective is unique, is fully manifesting their individuality, then as a collective, then you have unity. And then the unity is strong. And that's what we're trying to get at. Right? If we can give over to our children, Be'ezus Hashem, to our students, a message of hisbodedus, that each individual should build their own personal relationship with Hashem, then the collective klal will be that much stronger. And it's not in conflict. These two things are synergetic. They work together. They're not in conflict. So that's what he says. This is what Chazal are teaching. Every person needs to find that area of Torah, that libo chafetz, that their heart is into it. That's what they want. Kigoyin, for example, Yehudi shiyafa koichalul meid bein lebein atzmei ma'at mishnayos v'chadayme. Says, let's say a person, it's more prevalent, by men and more relevant, but whatever it is, you'll apply it as it's applicable in your own life. This person loves learning Mishnayos. That's the area of Torah that they connect to. They like to learn Mishnayos. Now, Baram Chafetz Lomed Gemara, Ve'eni yachal lav lekach mikochas atzmai. Let's say he wants to learn Gemara very badly. He's very much wants to get into Gemara, but he's not able to do it on himself, on his own. He's unable, he's incapable of learning Gemara on his own. And he says over to other people a shiur, Ki rak kach matzliach lahavik me'atzmas koach liman haGemara sheyesh bo. So this strange thing, where, let's say he doesn't, I don't think he can't, because if he can't learn Gemara himself, he's not going to be teaching it to other people. Let's say he doesn't have the motivation. Sometimes I have things like this. If I'm not writing about something, it doesn't, there are source sheets over there. Yeah? Great. So, if I choose to write about it, so then I'm invested, that I'm producing, and that's my own chachma. Right? That's what works for me. And that's good. This person needs to give a shiur. If he's giving a shiur Gemara to others, then he's committed, he's consistent with it, he's getting up early, whatever it is that he needed that extra push, because now there are other people who are relying on him. So now he's going and he's giving shiur to other people. So says Kluger, Mitzad Etzem Tivo, we're on page Nun Aleph, if you turn to the last sheet, page Nun Aleph 51. Mitzad Etzem Tivo, from the nature of this person's own unique nature, that person needs to understand it's beautiful. He could give shiur, to millions of people in Gemara, and he could even enjoy it. But his natural connection is mishnayos. That's where he feels his natural, it clicks. That's where he feels it's pleasant, it's enjoyable, it's sweet. It gives him whatever he's looking for out of limud Torah. He says, Zebechinas Torah so. This is the aspect of that person's Torah. That's their own thing. So why did he choose to give a shiur to other people? Because he's incapable of doing it on his own. So he goes and he gives a shiur to other people. But that's not really him. Because it's not really what he feels natural with. And again, all of us are here to push ourselves beyond our natural capacities. We shouldn't just take it easy. That's not what we're here in life. We're here to push and to try to explore new vistas and new horizons. But there's also something precious about a person's own natural sense of connection, and a person should value that. And a person should be able to demarcate in their life what is their own neshama talking, and what is that part that they're pushing beyond the boundaries of their natural sense of connection. He says, maybe he's going to be super successful in atzlacha, in learning Gemara. But it could be that in the great desire to do something that maybe collectively, objectively, people consider to be important, it could be that in the process, they're overlooking their own point. It could be that their own point is much simpler, less impressive, but that was their point. And they're forfeiting their own, what really is unique to them and what's natural to them, for something else. And they should be aware of that. Should be aware of that. I mean, that's, like Kluger is saying, that's an important trade-off for a person to be aware. What do we gain and what do we lose? Kihu chelkai, because this was his chelik, this was his from Shemaim, this was the area of Torah that this person was supposed to connect to. Ve'ein ba'atzlacha anachsheves be'enei abrius, but it's just people don't respect it. Mishnayos. Who cares about, terrible to say, but in the world, generally speaking, a person's learning Mishnayos all the time. It's not so respectable. A person who learns lots of Gemara, unbelievable. And the same is true, literally for our subject of Hisbodedus, which we've said in the past. It's not the most impressive thing to people. It's not even on people's radar to know that it's an impressive thing, that this is something that you do, that you put aside 15 minutes, 20 minutes, twice a week, it's in your calendar, to go out on your own into the park and to talk to Hashem in your own words. I don't know that people consider that to be too impressive. Maybe today the culture is changing a little bit, even any little bit of expression of spiritual connection is precious, and it is. But imagine if, in the pursuit of doing something that's objectively worthy in the eyes of others, a person is going to forfeit their own much simpler, much more natural, particular point. And there was a certain thing that they enjoyed. There's a certain thing that they like doing. There's a certain thing, I mean in a holy way, there's a certain thing that was their connection. And maybe somebody mocked it, or maybe somebody, said it's a waste of time, and then we rushed off. And in the meantime, Rav Kluger is saying maybe you left your whole neshama behind. Because maybe that was what you came into the world to do. And it doesn't matter what other people think. You'll remember what we learned about the Tam, in the story of the Chacham and the Tam, where he says, Zema seshali, Zema seshalo, this is my shoe that I made. I'm happy with it. I don't need to talk about anybody else. That's the Hisbodedus consciousness, to know that a person's whole thing in this world is to be them, not to be anybody else, and to find a way to do that b'shleimus, with joy and with confidence. Afim Amnam, he says, Mechadish Chidusha Neflaim B'Gemara, still going with this parable of this person, even if he'll be phenomenally successful in his learning of Gemara, and he'll reveal brand new ideas, and he'll write svarim, and he'll have chidushim and amazing novelties, she'ein aroya b'limuda ha'pashut, that he won't be able to reveal through the simple learning of Mishnayos, Biram liba yodea maras nafshay, but somehow his heart, it feels a little bit bitter. Maybe he has Torah Sheba'al Peh, but he doesn't feel that he has the written Torah. He's speaking metaphorically. He has some connection to Torah, but not the essence of it. He just doesn't feel close to Hashem from this. This is not what he's cut out for. And today in this system, so to speak, we said before, uniformity, everybody has to be exactly the same. We're so terrified of giving people the leeway and the trust that every person should find their own connection, which of course would build a much more robust community. If people have their own real connection to Hashem, even if it doesn't look like the one on their left and it doesn't look the way on their right, because then they'll have a Yiddishkeit that they actually feel connected to. They'll be able to give it over to their children, and they'll encourage their children to find their unique connection. But we're terrified of this. We're terrified. The Torah is not terrified, but some construct called the Orthodox community, I don't know what it is, but they're terrified. Everybody's got to do the same thing, learn the same thing, think the same way, dress the same way. And Sir Kluger says, you gain what you gain. But maybe a person feels that they lost themselves in the process. That there's strength in diversity. Tremendous strength in diversity. That's Tiferes. Tiferes is harmony. And harmony is only possible when you have two disparate notes that are sung together. If it's all the same note, it's nice. So have a chorus, a choir, it's nice. But there's an inyan of harmony that's brought about when every soul is empowered to be themselves and then to bring that into the collective. So Hisbodedus that we're learning about, this personal prayer, is more than just descriptive of a person's own spiritual practice. Right? This is not just a sefer on Hisbodedus, because otherwise we wouldn't be getting into all these conversations. We're trying to understand that Hisbodedus is a mindset, it's a consciousness. It's a derech in serving Hashem. It's a way of thinking about life, about Torah, what it is, and really sometimes what it isn't, but what it is. So when I'm rooted and grounded in a personal relationship with Hashem, how does that change the way that I look at the ideal, from my perspective of what it means to serve God? What does it mean for me to disengage from the opinions of other people in terms of what's respectable, what's not respectable, what's impressive, what's not impressive, and to let all of that float away, and to sit with my own nekuda, and to value that. and to believe that I have a unique nukuda to bring into the world, a unique point to reveal. Because he says this is what this person lost. Because it just goes with the flow, and this is what's expected, and this is what everyone's doing, and this is what everybody could do, and so on and so forth. And in the meantime, something gets lost. That he would have gained if he would have just stuck with what he was connected to. That would have been much better for him. Much better for him. And maybe he wouldn't be the biggest Talmid Chacham in Shas and Poskim, but maybe he would be an expert in Tanakh, let's say. Some people they can feel connected to Tanakh. They feel connected to Medrash. They feel connected to any area of Torah. And for some reason or another, they get the impression that that's not, we don't learn Tanakh, we don't learn this, we don't learn that, and you have to sit and you learn Gemara. And maybe he'll be a great scholar. But there's quantity and there's quality. A Hisbodedus oriented Judaism is much more focused on quality than quantity. And again, everything with a balance, meaning to say, just like we're speaking about particularism and community, got to be both, right? Meaning we don't say that every person should trend so much to the side of the individual that there should be no concern for the collective and everybody should just, like atoms just, flying off into space. Got to stay together as a coherent whole. And so in the same way over here, like we said, there's a purpose of pushing ourselves. There's a purpose of recognizing that sometimes in life there are things that aren't easy, that aren't natural, but a person's supposed to push themselves to move beyond. That's true. But at least to know that there's this concept of this unique nakuda. And he keeps on coming back to the word pshuta. And it's simple. It's not contrived. It's not sophisticated. It's just you. What comes natural, easy, enjoyable. Every person has something. Every person has a natural natiyah. Some people are artistic, some people are musical, some people are more technical, some people are more organized, some people, my wife is a professional organizer, she loves spreadsheets and organization. I can't understand it. But she loves doing it, and that's her thing, and that's where she shines. And she found her point, and everybody has a point. And you have to find what's the thing that's easy, that's enjoyable, that you're passionate about. And if I was just speaking on a podcast recently, if a person can't find what they're passionate about, and they don't think that they have anything unique, pay attention consciously to what you speak about most frequently. Because Reb Tzaddik says that the thing that a person speaks about the most often, that's their point. And it's a subconscious thing, because the whole human being is in their speech, because that's what it means to be human, right? To speak. Animals have all the other faculties, they can't speak. That means that the whole human being is in the speech. So what do they talk about? That means what are they connected to? And that's if you have to really excavate. Most people, I don't think you have to excavate that deeply. Every person knows themselves, they have a certain thing. And it's true that on the side of sur me'ra, when a person is working on the things that are more on the negative aspect, over there it's the opposite. You look for the things that are the hardest for you. You look for the midos that are the most susceptible to a bad midah, and etc. And that's the thing that's the most difficult. That's the thing you work on. That's true for sur me'ra. That's true for the aspect of avodas Hashem, which is getting away from the not good. But the asay tov is on the contrary. You look for the things that are easy, the things that are sweet and direct and straightforward and natural. And you can also look into it like when you were a child. What did you gravitate toward? What was your favorite, fill in the blank? That's natural. And then to try to consciously reclaim that in life. To try to set aside time to connect to Hashem using that point. And that's what we keep on saying. It's not stam a hobby, right? To get close to Hashem using that point. To find a way to channel this into serving God. If it's art, how can we decorate psukim beautifully? I have a sister, phenomenal artist. Phenomenal. And she does with psukim to bring out the beauty of the pasuk. And it's all serving Hashem. I'm sure that somebody somewhere might suggest to her that, maybe there's more impressive, ways and avodah doesn't spend her time. But that's her point. That's her point. Everybody has to find their point and to serve Hashem with that point and to come into Hisbodedus with that shining point. Limudei apshuta. When we carry on, he says, "B'derech klal," and generally speaking, me'achar she'amiras hashiur eina ikar nekudas ha'amitas, because it's not natural for him, and he doesn't really want to be doing it, and he doesn't really feel connected to it, but this is what society expects him to do. Al kein mizbar im azman she'eina meichen atzmi kedaboy v'chulu. It's clarified, with the passage of time that he's not really. It'll start to show he's not really in it. Doesn't prepare properly. Doesn't really care so much about it. He's not so deeply invested into it because it's not his thing, because he's not passionate about it. That's why I'm always telling students and everybody that I speak to try to find a project in Yiddishkeit. Now, you heard recently somebody said, I didn't see it inside, but he said over from Rav Moshe Feinstein that the same way that a person is expected to give Meiser a 10% of their profits to tzedakah, he said a phenomenal thing. A Jew is expected to give 10% of their time to Klal Yisrael. Make an accounting. How much time in a week? What's a tenth of that? A tenth of your time to Klal Yisrael. Unbelievable. Which, by the way, presupposes the fact that every person has something to share. Otherwise, what are you giving to Klal Yisrael? But it means everyone has something to share, and whatever way that you can share it, whatever your passion is, on whatever level, if it's teaching Torah, if it's a chesed project, if it's a tefillah initiative, whatever it is, especially today, everybody has a phone. You're automatically a graphic designer and a video editor, and you do it all the time. Don't even aware of it. But there are ways that you can use technology to increase Hashem's presence in the world. This is what we're here to do. We're Yidden, we're Jews. I like to say there is no lay. There's no layman in Yiddishkeit. We're all Rabbanim and Rebbitzins, every one of us. Right? Maybe not professionally, but it means we're expected to share. We're expected to find a way to increase emunah in the world. Find a way. Make a project. And I find that when students make projects, and I have Baruch Hashem, many of my students have gone on to write things and are teaching, and I have WhatsApp groups where they're sharing Torah, whatever it is, but if it's theirs, then they feel passionate about it. Because it's their own. It's something that they're invested in. It's something that they're working on. They feel a sense of accomplishment. It's their project. And especially if it's writing, after they finish, they can hold it in their hands because this is the product that I created. It's a precious thing. Really a precious thing. That's their own nekuda. But if you hear this person who didn't really want to do this, mishum she'emes, the truth is she'ein lo kavana be'etzam alim razel nekudas teirasai. This kavana, this intention in giving this shiur is not really his own connection. Kim to'elas tzadit ha'ol lo mikach. It's just that he figures out that in order to force himself to learn Gemara, well, if he gives a shiur, so then he has to learn it, because otherwise, people are expecting him to know it. So then but it's not natural. And so there's some other side motivation. He's not really present in it fully. Nimsa, so it emerges that hashiur chaser. Something's going to be missing. Because he doesn't intend to teach. He intends to do whatever he intends to do, but it's not why he's there. That's not what he's actually doing. And the person giving the shiur will also feel something's lacking. This is not really me. This is not really what I want. Now, he says in parentheses over here in the brackets, certainly on a simple level, and even if you'll ask him, he'll say, "What are you talking about? I love it. I'm succeeding. I'm accomplishing. I see that it's helping people." But he says that the question just comes through his head very quickly. right? Without the shayl, like the person who's asking, really expressing himself fully, gam kacha ma'anahu ba'ifin said that the answer is not really deep. He didn't take the time to really think and to contemplate and to do a cheshbon hanefesh, right? Like we learned last time or 2 times ago, cheshbon hanefesh, right? To think with your soul, which means like deep soul think. What do I really want out of this? What is my goal? What do I desire? What is my objective? So then he answers you, yeah, no, I want to give the shiur. That's not really what he wants to do. That's the answer that he gave, but it's not for real. But it's not really responding to the question. Like what are you actually looking for? But a person who really understands this person, he's going to tell the person, listen, it looks like a longer path, but it's what's called in Chazal the long path. That's really the short path, which means it might be quantitatively more difficult, or it might sort of it might let go of the quantitative aspect, but qualitatively it will be much deeper. Hainu, and that person will tell them, spend your time doing what you need to do to serve God, to find your own point of connection that's yours, and put your main effort into that. Because the whole purpose is the relationship. And the whole purpose is the relationship that becomes a holistic experience of godliness that we call halacha, right? Which is this immersive effort to try to align our will, that it should reflect the will of Hashem, to try that our lives should be reflective of Hashem's presence, Hashem's ratzon, right? To walk with God in every way, shape, and form, and it's a constant ladder, and we're always growing. That's the goal. And therein, our lives become a beacon, like a reflector of God's presence in the world, and we're able to be an ar lagoyim, we're able to be a light unto the nations, we're able to really serve as portals, that a person looks at our lives and they see Hashem's presence. It's a window, just a window into another realm. That's what the human should be. It's Selim Elokim. But in order to do that, says Rav Kluger, faking it out and trying to do something that isn't really you is not the way. That's not going to build an authentic relationship with Hashem. You might be a successful Magid Shiur, right? Or you might be a successful, anything else that you're trying to accomplish from the standpoint of the community, but who cares? That's not why Hashem came down on Har Sinai. For the perfect Shalach Manas. Like, that's not where it's at. It's not, people feel pressured into making these Shalach Manases that they don't want to do it. They don't care about it. That's not there. They're not doing it for closeness to Hashem per se. They feel that they have to, and fill in the blank with a million other things. Says Rav Kluger, forget that. Totally forget that. Do something simple that's going to give you Yichud HaHisbodedus, but focus on the point that you want to focus on. Then your Yiddishkeit will be strong. It might not be strong in the way that somebody else considers, the barometer, or the parameter, or the benchmark really for success. But it doesn't matter what other people think. What matters is what you know for yourself in your heart, and what you see is providing peiros, right? What you see, what you see is bringing real fruits into the world from the standpoint of a greater commitment to halacha, of a greater commitment to self-sacrifice, of a greater commitment to being able to put yourself second and put Hashem first, and how you structure your time and your priorities and what you care about and what makes you happy and what makes you sad, which are always good indicators as to where a person's at. If you see that that's gaining because of your investment in your own personal nakuda, then that's what you need to do. Yeah, question.
What if someone's nakuda is learning personally by themselves, but they don't feel personally inclined to sharing it over with other people, but they want to be able to help others on their journey? So how do you balance that?
Yes, right. So that's what we're learning, that it shouldn't be in extremes, right? It should be both. Like we're saying, this person not necessarily shouldn't be giving a shiur in Gemara. Maybe he should also be doing that. He should push himself, and we all have to push ourselves, and we have to find a way, even if it's not something that's pleasant, and even if it's not something that's natural to us. If it's a holy thing and it could benefit other people, there's no greater Torah than Torah that you learn in order to teach. It's called V'Torah's Chesed Alashona, right? Alashono. The Alashona, right? The Torah's Chesed, that's a Torah that's also Torah and it's also Chesed. Unbelievable. But it means that your primary focus needs to be invested in what you feel is connecting you to Hashem. And if a person will turn inward to the point of engaging with their own personal nakuda, then they will see that it's much more likely that the rest of the parameters for spiritual success will grow, as opposed to primarily overlooking their personal nakuda and trying to focus on, just doing the thing, which from Hashem's perspective is not worth very much, as the Navi Yeshayahu made very clear. God doesn't need all your millions of karbanis. God needs that also, because Allah says you have to bring a carbon. It's making a point. It's not saying this over that. We're never going to one extreme over another extreme. We're not either saying, like the taxi drivers, just have this emunah balev, We're not saying that either. It's got to be a balance. You have to have your own nekuda pnimis, that's your emunah balev, and then you also have to participate from the standpoint of the community. But what my perspective is, the exact opposite strategy of the way that things are done today. Make sure everybody's safe, everybody's just card carrying and doing what they need to do, and then hopefully they'll find their connection to Hashem. And I think it has to start the opposite way around. I think we have to empower students to find their own particular connection, and we have to create schools and institutions one day where we're offering electives and we're giving people different opportunities to find what speaks to them, to give them a project that they feel passionate about, to train them into different aspects of Yiddishkeit, that there are so many different things that people can do. Mamish, it's the parsha that we're learning now. This is exactly what the parsha is teaching us about the contributions to the Mishkan. That was Kol Nediv Libo Yeviyeha. Every person brought what they felt like bringing. There was no like list of things. You got to bring this, you got to bring that, and you'll bring this, and they'll bring that. It wasn't that. Kol Nediv Libo Yeviyeha. And you had the woman that's described in the pasuk who knew how to do this incredible thing and weaving things that wanted still on the goat, and that was their thing, and that's what they brought to Hashem. And someone else was very good working with metals, and that's what they brought to Hashem. Somebody else was good at working with whatever else, and that's what they brought to Hashem. And what's the Mishkan? The Mishkan is just a word. It's the Shekhinah. It's the indwelling presence of Hashem in this world. And you and I are here to build the Mishkan in every generation, whether we're in the desert, whether we're not, whether we have a physical Mishkan or not, or even a physical Beis HaMikdash. We are here as Yidden in the desert of this world to build a Mishkan for God. And the only way that we're going to do that is through radical individuality. Then, when each person brings their point, then V'haya HaMishkan Echad. The pasuk says the Mishkan became one, because there's no greater oneness than points of individuality that are brought into a coherent whole that's so much greater than the sum of the parts, like a 1,000,000-part harmony or a 600,000-part harmony, right? Where every Jew is singing their own note, and then all together in the collective, you have a whole that is so much stronger as a result of the points. And that's my vision. But it begins with the rootedness in the primacy of an authentic connection to Hashem that trumps everything else. Meaning that the greatest accomplishment that a Jew could accomplish is to forge a vulnerable and authentic and real connection with the divine. If you begin there, then there's any number of forms that could take. But if my highest ideal, let's say for my son, is that he should be a Talmud Chacham, so then I'm boxing him out of like millions of other ways that he might connect to God, and I'm forcing him into a particular box, and he might not connect to that box. And he might connect to that box, and whatever, that's fine. But he might not. And so what am I left with? I'm left with the shell of a Jew who's walking around with the sort of external trappings, and even I don't just mean physical, like clothing external, but on some level in their personality external to their nekuda penimis, to what they really are. If my highest value is that this kid should be on fire with dveikus to Hashem, then I don't care how he does it. On the contrary, I wouldn't dare try to have him go in a certain way, because I want him to be himself. I don't have any consideration. It's certainly not about me, but it's not about anybody else either. It's about Shmuel Shmalka Klein, is my oldest. And it's about Ora Miriam Klein, it's about Amichai Eliyahu Klein. It's about each one of them being them. Depends what my value is. You understand? Depends what I want as a parent. Depends. So this is what the advice would be. She'ikr, right? She'ikr, not the whole thing, but the main thing is she'ashkia be'ikr b'ma sheshayich elav. What's going to build your conscious and authentic connection to Hashem? Because this is the doorway. And in other traditions, they'll tell you, no, you can trust yourself, and the easier it is, it's the Yetzer Hara, and you have to find the things that are hard and annoying, and And this is not the way of the Baal Shem Tov. No. The Baal Shem Tov is very simple. You like it, bring it into Yiddishkeit, and you'll like Yiddishkeit. Simple. It's without chachmas. You're good at it, you like it, you have a talent from Hashem, find a way to bring it into spirituality. End of story. If it's not so easy, and if you get raised eyebrows from people, and if people are not, respecting this person, let's say, however much they want to be respected, it's okay. Because you keep your eye on the ball. What really matters? Why did Hashem create this world? And why are we here? To build a mishkan, to bring your own point, not somebody else's point. And find your own way. We're descendants of Avram Avinu, who's described by the pasuk in Divrei Hayamim as Echad Haya Avraham. Avram was an Echad, he was a Yachid. He was an individual. We're a nation of individuals. We're a nation of Shvatim. And each of the Shvatim are part of Klal Yisrael. But imagine if all the Shvatim just say, enough of this individuality stuff, and you have this flag and we have that flag. Everybody's going to have the same flag. The whole Klal Yisrael, we would all suffer. And even though on the surface it's a really good idea, because it's perfect, let everybody be. No, it's the destruction of Klal Yisrael. And everybody pays lip service to the Shvatim. We don't really mean it. But we talk about it, and you'll have these parashiyos, they'll give nice divrei Torah with the 12 Shvatim, the 12 flags. Today all the flags would be black and white. Chas v'shalom should be color on flags. And all the stones would just be black and white stones on the chayshin. We took all the color out of Judaism. We destroyed it. We took all the color out of it on every level. You have to bring color back. I'm a big talker. I'm sitting here in black and white only because that's what lets me say these messages. A little bit undercover, just disguised as a penguin. But we need to bring color back into Yiddishkeit. I don't necessarily mean colored clothing, although I have nothing against colored clothing for men. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about individuality, real individuality, giving people. I think we spoke about it in a previous year about the colored socks. Remember, what is authentic Jewish individuality? Let's find a way. Let's speak a language in our homes and in our schools to empower the individuals and not be afraid of them. Not be afraid of them. To be afraid of uniformity much more than I'm afraid of diversity. Much more. Because I need to trust in the Jewish neshama. I need to trust that every Yid wants to connect to Hashem, and every Yid is meant to connect to Hashem in their own unique way. Is there a public square where everybody comes together and does the same thing? Gotta be. Right? There has to be. Of course, right? There's always a social contract, especially when it's a religious contract, especially when we have shared principles and shared values and shared mitzvos and shared yamim tovim and shared curriculums and shared, for sure. But we have to primarily be focused on helping our students and our children and ourselves to develop our personal connection. Our personal connection. Chazinon, we find, let's just finish up, Shenekudasai apshuta shakoli Yehudi hua ikar etzlai. We find that the simple point of every Jew, that's the main thing. You cannot escape it. You could try to run away from it, you can't escape it. And if you'll try to substitute it with something else, it will not work out. You can't do it. You can try to suppress and suppress and suppress, it'll come out a different way. Because Hashem wants us to reveal what He wants us to reveal. Hashem Yisbarach Omer Yehudi. We should hear Hashem speaking to us. And again, how do we know what Hashem is saying? Through the tzaddikim. Rav Kluger is a tzaddik, right? He knows the whole Torah. He is representing the will of the divine. That's all that we know. Ve'aminu b'Hashem uva Moshe Avda. They believed in Hashem, but they wouldn't have had Hashem without Moshe Rabbeinu coming to them and telling them what God's name is, which is what God is, what God's revelation is. We need to trust the tzaddikim. There are many different kinds of tzaddikim. You'll connect to the ones that resonate with you. I resonate with this. I think many of us do. This is Hashem. End of story. That's called Emunas Chachamim. This is Rav Kluger. This is not me. If it's me, don't trust a word I say. This is Rav Kluger. Rav Kluger says, this is what God is telling to each Jew. We have to hear Hashem saying this to us. Nekudas halo yotzlach shalcha yikara be'enai ki hi shalcha. I'm going to read it first and I'll translate it. Yoser min nekudas hatzlacha she'ena shalcha. We need to hear Hashem saying to us, this part of your service of God that you don't feel is the most successful, that doesn't look the most shiny, that isn't the most sparkling, that isn't the most perfect, says Hashem, is more precious to me because it's yours than the great success that really belongs to someone else, that you're just imitating. Hashem says, much more precious to me is your point, as imperfect as it may be, but it's yours, as unimpressive as it might, but it's yours, something that's authentic, that you really feel excited about and connected to, something that you really want to do to Hashem, for Hashem, that little point that you want to bring to the Mishkan. Hashem says, that's much more precious to me than the big accomplishment that isn't really yours. You happen to be doing it, but it's not really yours. Not really yours. Very, very powerful and precious, and that's the end. That's the end. That's the end of this chapter. So, Be'ezras Hashem, next week we'll continue with the next chapter. Which, if you have the Sefer, does it say again? This is chapter 4. No, I think it's chapter 6. I think we're up to Perek Vav, which will continue next time. And we just want to open the floor if there are any questions or comments on anything shared yet.
What if someone feels drawn to something that's outside of halacha? So someone feels that their specific favorite is to, I don't know exactly, but they feel drawn to...
Without an example, it's impossible to answer, but I don't think that we'll find an example because there's no such thing. That's not, that we know 100 million %. If it's outside the bounds of halacha, then you can't be aligning yourself with the will of the divine if it's outside the boundaries of the will of the divine.
Let's say someone grew up religious,
yeah,
and they feel like they didn't connect to God, but then they started not keeping halacha so much, and then they really felt that they connected.
Okay, they'll find a way to bring that into halacha. Hopefully in a halachic system, that's approached with a healthier perspective. But that's a hard stop. I'll tell you, Rabbi Nachman said, take my sefer, which was Likutei Moharan. He said, twist it and turn it any way you like, but don't cross one sif katan of Shulchan Aruch. So that means that, because Likutei Moharan is so spiritual, but in bounds. Halacha is a lot broader than people think. Halacha, especially the mitzvos, are so that you can bring your own creativity into the mitzvahs in phenomenal, wonderful ways. And generally, when we speak a language of individuality and we help people find that in Yiddishkeit, they're okay with halacha. But something that's outside the bounds, we know 100% of the time, if it's mamash halacha. Now, we can get into inyanim, different kinds of music, different things. It's not mamash halacha, so it might be a sensitivity to some, and a person's inyan is rap music, and other people would feel that that's not so much in the spirit of ruchnius. That's a conversation already. That's not clear cut. And there are a whole lot of things that are not clear cut that people think are halacha. They're not actually halacha, and you have to and so on. But if it's halacha, it's halacha.
Is it possible that there are some people that are simply not made to keep all halacha?
I don't think any person is made to keep all of halacha, right? Because we're humans, and nobody is absolutely perfect, right? Every person is intended to strive to keep all of halacha. There's a difference. I don't keep all of halacha. I don't know all of halacha to keep all of halacha. I don't know all of Hilchos Shabbos on the back of my hand. If I have a question, I ask. But I'm sure there are things that I do that are not. I try my best and I'm learning, but I don't have to be perfect. Halacha, Shulchan Aruch is a ceiling. It's what we aspire to, and part of aspiring is learning. And loyam aretz chassid, you have to learn in order to know and to try as best as you can to learn halacha every day and to try to learn as best as you can. Nobody's keeping all of halacha, but every Jew is intended to strive to keep as much halacha as they can. But I don't like to use the word keep as if it's something that we have to. Every Jew, let's put it into better terminology, which I think is more accurate. Every Jew is intended to strive to utilize the opportunity of bringing Hashem into their life that halacha represents. All of it. Because why wouldn't we want to? Not a matter of you have to keep it. It's how could I not? How could I not attempt? Now again, perfection, nobody's perfect. Are there areas of halacha that I struggle with? For sure. Are there areas of halacha that all of us struggle with? 1,000,000%. That's normal. That's normal. And that's a constant journey that is in direct tandem with the depth of our relationship with Hashem, how much I'm willing to forego my personal unpleasantness and to do what's right because I know that it's right. I'm not always on that madrega. And I think that most of us can experience some things where I'm not quite there. But that's a mark of growth. That's exactly what the point is. Hashem is trying to say, can you demonstrate your willingness, like in any relationship? It's all good and well, to do something nice for your spouse or for a close friend when you're also benefiting from it. It's like the guy who buys his wife a birthday present every time. He's buying him something that he's also going to benefit. That's not, but it's a whole nother thing for the relationship when a person's demonstrating their willingness that this has nothing to do with me. And even if I'm willing to undergo difficulty because I care about you, I care about the relationship. That's the way that I like to see halacha. But it's a journey. Halacha is a journey. Okay? Yeah, a question?
You say you should challenge yourself.
Yes, yes.
If you have something that's natural to you, when you gave the art, for example, so it's easy for you. So how do you challenge yourself? I don't know if that's your skill.
No, so on the contrary, that is going to be the part that's your personal skill, and that's not what we're talking about. But what about other things? Right? Not in that nakuda. Now that point is easy for you, natural for you, and that's what you should connect to, and you should rejoice in the ability to bring that into the service of Hashem. That's what you're contributing to the Mishkan. But there are other areas of life where we have to push ourselves. So again, we're always bringing it back to synthesis, balance. Not this or that. It's not halacha or feeling connected. It's not your personal point, or everyone is just robots that are doing the same thing. It's both. Not that I think anybody should be robots. I meant on from the standpoint of the klal. But over here in our learning, we're trying to foster within ourselves a consciousness of hisbodedus, right? Which means an authentic, personal, direct relationship with Hashem that's unmediated by any institution, that's unmediated by any communal affiliation. It's just the neshama and its source. That's what we're trying to bring ourselves back to. It's been a long exile. We're trying to get
אני הבן ואתה האב שלי שכל כך אוהב אותי האב שלי מלך חי וקיים על כל נשימה שאני